Hello and welcome back to the Sales Enablement Festival. I hope you're enjoying the event so far because we've got even more great content heading your way. Remember to have your questions at the ready and get the tailored answers you need from the experts themselves. Thank you again to our sponsors and partners for helping us bring this event to life. Don't forget, if you're enjoying the content from the festival, be sure to check out the SEC membership plans. You can find more information about this over on the Sales Enablement Collective website. Sit back and enjoy the next talk. Hello everyone and welcome back to this next talk that is hosted by Ben Chung, who is the Senior Business Intelligence Consultant over at QStream, and he's going to talk to you all about using microlearning and reinforcement for improving sales proficiency. Over to you, Ben.
Thanks, Jack. Again, thank you everybody for taking the time this morning, afternoon, wherever you're coming from. Again, my name is Ben Chung, Senior Business Intelligence Consultant here at QStream. And today I'm going to walk you through just a demonstration of our platform, but also to talk to you about the benefits of microlearning and a strategy based around that. So what I'm going to do is just a live demonstration here today. But before I do that, I'm sure many of you are familiar with this concept of a spaced methodology, spaced learning, spaced education. There's a lot of terms for it now. Our platform, QStream, was actually founded by Dr. Price Kerfoot, who clinically proved that bite-sized chunks of information over an extended period of time is more conducive to long-term retention. So our whole platform is based around that algorithm, all around that methodology that you'll see here today. So I'm going to get started here with one of the main roles of QStream is content creation, right? So there's content creation, there's user experience, and then lastly, there's analytics, right? All of that data that's all rolled up, and you know, at the end of it, what do we get out of it, right? And that's the analytics portion. So we'll start here with the content creation. For us, we've really built the platform around creating reusable content, right? Creating a library of content that can be used across your entire organization. And what you're seeing here is a whole slew of questions that's created by people within QStream itself, within our demo environment. And it's great because, you know, I could create my own questions. I could create questions from a post training session, post event, seminar, whatever it may be. But then I can also leverage content that other members of my team, other members of my organization have created as well. So I can see here, if I'm trying to create a QStream, I could see what some of my teammates, for example, Cahill in Ireland, what he's created. It looks like he's created a lot of data protection, privacy type of questions. I could then also go to Darren and see, oh, he's created a lot of very similar questions, and some about Scrum, but a lot about sensitivity in terms of data as well. So what we can do is then create a question, you know, centered around these same topics, or we can create a QStream and leverage some of these questions that they have available here as well. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to just create a question here together as a group. And before I do that, I'm going to click this button here and show you what the shell of creating a question looks like, right? So we can see here, it's a very simple editor. We can create a title, we can upload images, we can actually write the question. All of these can be, you know, reordered in any way, shape, or form. We can then provide our answer choices, correct or incorrect, and mark them as such. We can randomize answer choices. And then in the explanation, same thing, right? Be able to upload images, be able to embed videos, and be able to, you know, write our full-length explanation that's filled with robust information. So I've actually gone ahead and just created a sample question already. I'm a huge history buff, so I've created a question about the Greek poet Homer here. And I've just gone ahead and done some of the legwork and put in the content. So the question itself, some of the answer explanations, but then the answer choices as well, and marked which ones are the correct ones and which ones are the incorrect ones. So what I really am trying to do here is show you the ease of creating a question, as well as being able to, let's see here, I'm going to grab a image off of my desktop and just drag and drop. You're able to upload images, and like I said earlier, you're able to reorder them as necessary, so that way You can structure the question and explanation however you'd like. Again, answer choices are already indicated in here. We can make them, like I said before, multiple correct style, or if we wanted just a single multiple choice style, you're able to do the same thing just by indicating which ones are correct or incorrect. You can add more as well. So I have an explanation in here, and what I'm also going to do is I'm just going to add an image as well in this. And I'm going to reorder this because I think the image should go towards the top. So for us, the explanation is actually a very key component of question creation and content creation, right? So it's really one thing to create and write a good question. Maybe it's a scenario-based question and have strong, solid answers in here. But an explanation is absolutely key, right? So having a user be able to come in, answer their question. If they get a question wrong, the explanation should explain why the answer choice is incorrect. If they answer the question right, it should provide also additional information and content. So that way, no matter whether I answer a question right or wrong, it's still beneficial to me as an end user, right? I'm able to understand, okay, the next time, because this is a spaced methodology, the next time that this question is presented to me, I'll be able to be more well-equipped to be able to answer the question correctly, and avoid the incorrect responses and know why. So I'm going to save my question here. One last thing actually is that we actually also have a checklist at the bottom that gives some of the required portions of creating a question, but then also a couple of recommended, right? And again, I explained why the explanation is important, but it's the same thing with getting a lot of questions at once. If you're just looking at blocks of text, it's really helpful to have images and videos in there to sort of break up that monotony as well. So I've gone ahead and I've created my question, and then I think, oh, well, maybe I actually want to, edit and add more additional media to this. I'm able to click edit and say, oh, well, we do have this, fantastic video that marketing has created. Maybe I want to embed that video. We've made, embedding videos incredibly easy. I can go in, grab a YouTube link, for example, and come back in here and just paste it in and just hit embed. I could say, again, I want to put this towards the top, and then have the explanation towards the bottom, able to do that as well. So we're going to hit save. And now I'm going to actually show you the other portion of QStream, and that's the user experience. So the first time that a user actually enters QStream, it's probably, this is what they're going to see. This is our dashboard. Questions are delivered via email. So they'll be able to get a email notification. It'll say, hey, you've been enrolled into, for example here, one of my colleagues, Bryony, has enrolled me into Good Clinical Practices Challenge. And I'll have, the first couple of questions available on my dashboard. As you can see, this is a demo environment, so I've answered some of the questions before, but within the dashboard, I'm able to see a couple of things, right? I'm able to see, again, my questions, any of the QStreams I'm enrolled in, but I'm also able to see the leaderboard, right? So QStream is really, has really incorporated gamification as part of it as well. So as I'm answering questions, I get points for correct answers, and I can really move up on the leaderboard and show that I know my stuff really well. Unfortunately, we have the leaderboard as a default set to a top 10, and I can see that I'm currently ranked 13th, so I'm not up there quite yet, but hopefully maybe after today's demo I will be. So I'm going to go ahead and click answer and show what that participant experience looks like. So we can see here the question. I can see that this is my first attempt. And so I'm going to take the time now to sort of explain again that spaced education methodology. So our algorithm, our base algorithm, we provide a couple of questions every other day. And as participants get them correct, it takes 2 correct responses in a row for that particular question to be considered mastered or retired, right? So this is my first attempt. When I answer it, if I answer it correctly, I'll see that question again in 2 weeks' time. And the reason why we have it in 2 weeks, actually 13 days, is because Dr. Price Kerfoot has discovered that that's really the borderline between short-term and long-term memory. So if I'm able to demonstrate mastery of this question again in 2 weeks' time, it's considered mastered by our standards, and we remove it from your queue, right? So the way to complete a QStream is by mastering all of the questions. we also have 3 attempts per question, right? So if I answer a question incorrectly, again, that explanation is key. I'll be able to read it, understand why it's correct or incorrect, and then I'll have 2 more attempts to master that question. So mastery provides, more points to your score overall, increasing your positioning on the leaderboard itself. But for this particular question, it's my first attempt, right? So I also wanted to take a moment and show you that when we were creating our content, right, it was very easy. It was a lot of rich text editing. You can just, copy and paste things into it, drag and drop photos or videos or images, whatever it may be. And all of that is actually automatically responsive, right? So the best way to sort of show you this without swapping devices is to show you that as I resize my screen, you can see that the question itself will be responsive. So whether I'm answering this question on a mobile device, cell phone, tablet of any sort, it's going to be responsive based on whatever your screen resolution is. So whatever questions you put in here will always automatically work for, all devices on, most or all platforms, as well as, we also have a mobile app if you would like to download the mobile app and answer questions on there as well, and get notifications that way. But let's go ahead and answer this question. Unfortunately, I didn't do any of the reading ahead of time, so I don't know which one is the correct one. So I'm going to just make a guess here and hit submit. And I can see that I actually got this question correct. So a couple of things happen, right? I'm able to see that I have points for engaging. So you automatically get points the first time that you're answering the questions, right? You get points just for participating, but you also get additional points for getting the correct answer. I can see at this point I have 100% proficiency. And again, to talk about that algorithm, my next attempt of this question will be sent to me in 13 days, right? I can see the name of the Q stream, my overall score currently, and then my overall proficiency within this Q stream itself. And again, here's the answer explanation. Now I'm able to read it and understand, all right, maybe I guessed this question, which I did in this case, but I have all of the information here presented to me. So next time when I get this question, I'll know why my guess was correct. We can go ahead, click next question. This is a multiple correct answer style. So I'm just going to select 3, hit submit. And you can see here, I actually selected an answer choice that was incorrect, right? So I'm able to see here, this was my first attempt of the question. While I got 2/3 of it, there's 2/3 correct answers points given to me. So I do get credit for the correct ones that I selected, but I don't get full credit because I selected an incorrect response. And the opposite side of getting a fully correct response is you're asked the question again, your next attempt, in 1 week's time, right? So you're not immediately presented with questions that you got wrong. You're expected to sort of sit, dwell, think about those answers, those responses, and then you're presented them again in 1 week's time. So not that long-term retention period, but long enough so that way, you're not just immediately making guesses as soon as you read the explanations. So we can see here we have our explanation. Great, gone ahead and read it, and I can click finish, and I can see, I have other questions that are going to be available to me. I'm enrolled in another Q stream, right? So I'm able to see, tomorrow, it looks like I'll be receiving questions for a different one. But I can overall see my current score and the leaderboard itself. And I can go back to the dashboard and see, if my positioning has changed. And, lo and behold, I have gone from 13th to 9th on this leaderboard. It'll be very short-lived, I'm sure, based on some of my teammates here. But for the participant experience, it's meant to be very quick, very simple, very effective. We don't really follow the methodology of presenting somebody with an assessment and giving them all of the questions at once and expecting them to finish it like a test or an exam. It's really meant to be bite-sized chunks of information over time. For example, like these questions, I could be brushing my teeth in the morning and answering a couple of them on my phone, and I've gone ahead and started my training program in whatever way, shape, or form. We use Q streams internally for a lot of different things, whether it's onboarding, compliance training, whatever it may be, and we just find that it has a significant impact in terms of that long-term retention of material and data. And so with all of that in mind, right, we're going to move over to the last component of QStream and this microlearning strategy that we're putting together here. and that's our analytics, right? So we have all of that data captured. Participants are answering questions over extended period of time. And then when program managers such as yourselves will come in here, you're able to see at a very high level the overall data that we present. And we have really three main pillars that we present the data, and that's through engagement, activity, and proficiency, right? So the difference being engagement is how active your participants are, have they started, right? Whether they're in progress, whether they're completed, whether the queue stream closed and they were still active, so they were marked as incomplete. You're able to see all of these percentages, started percentage, not started, completed, while participation is more along the lines of whether they did start and how actively are they answering their questions, right? I could have started my queue stream today and I'm obviously in a started percentage, but then maybe I peter off and I stop answering questions overall, right? That would put me into a not active situation. So while I am marked as started, my activity level has dropped tremendously. And lastly, and probably the most important one, is we put a very strong focus on proficiency as well. So we can see the initial proficiency. And again, if you remember that algorithm, first time I'm presented questions, first time I'm answering questions, all of that data is cataloged and marked as being the initial proficiency of seeing the question. And then as time goes on, as I have subsequent attempts at answering that question and then mastering it, what is that improvement in proficiency? What is my current proficiency or final proficiency? And I can see here, there is a marketed, improvement between the two. And then, an overall, scientific percentage for it is that, for this particular queue stream, we've improved, a little under 15% in terms of the improvement overall. And we can actually dive a little bit deeper into each of these components. If you have a lot of different queue streams in an organization, as a program manager, you may want to see overall, how is my whole program doing? I can see all of the queue streams. I can roll all of that data up, or I can select specific ones. In this case, I've selected 4 of our demo queue streams and had all of that data rolled up here. And I can actually dive a little bit deeper into each one of these pillars. And so let's go ahead and take a look at some of the queue stream details, right? Again, I had mentioned, there's people who are considered active or inactive. In this case, this queue stream detail shows us whether the queue stream is active or completed, right? Is this queue stream still ongoing, or have we fully closed it out? And I can see that, for 3 of these queue streams that I've selected, they're, completed, but there's actually one that's still currently active with 15 participants in it, and that was the one that I was answering questions for. I can see here we have 2 queue stream types. So I did mention that we have the classic algorithm with that spaced methodology. We also, queue stream is very flexible. So on the off chance that you don't want to use the standard algorithm that we have, you're also able to do queue streams in a very similar fashion to exams and tests if the situation calls for it, right? You can present all of the questions at once with only one time to be able to answer the questions, or you could have actually a third type of functionality that we have that allows you to be able to answer all the questions and you only get repeat attempts if the questions were answered incorrectly, right? So there's a lot of flexibility here, and the services rep that would be assigned to your account would definitely work with you in creating an active project plan to be able to manage the types of queue streams effectively. We're going to move into engagement and completion. I'm just being cognizant of the time here. So when we take a look at this, this is one of the most important factors of queue stream, right? I can see which ones are in progress, incomplete, complete, not started, but more importantly, I can see that with participants as well, right? So if I have started a queue stream and I've rolled it out and I want to say, it's great, we have really active participation overall, I can see, there's close to 36% of people currently in progress with their queue streams. But maybe I want to see who are the people who did not start, or people who, after a week's time haven't even answered their first question, right? I can actually click on the not started, the filter over here, and I'm able to see, the 4 participants that are currently who are not started yet. I'm able to then export all of this information into a CSV, and I can shoot them an email if I need to, or just without even needing to do that. If it's people that I know, obviously I can just reach out to them if they're part of my team in any way, shape, or form through whatever internal communication. But the idea is that you're able to get that participant list as well as the not started, right, and be able to effectively nudge them to begin and get data. And really, one of the more important aspects about this is because we have that gamification in place, not only is there an individual leaderboard, you can set a team leaderboard as well. So, for members of my team like Cahill and Rich, and actually Aaron, all three of these people are on my team here at QStream. I can see that they haven't started yet in their QStream. And if we want to move our team up on the leaderboard, that requires points, which requires participation. So, it may be something that I can say, hey guys, I think it would be pretty helpful for our QStream, especially if there's any, micro prizes associated with it, right? Pizza party, gift cards, whatever it may be. Let's get started and let's get those questions answered. So we can go ahead and just dive a little bit deeper into engagement. Because we have teams, the great thing about enrolling your participants as program managers, you can also assign different tags and topics to your questions as well as your participants, right? So all of our participants were tagged, with the United States, Ireland, India, wherever they may be, and we can see that participation rate for the country. We can drill a little bit deeper. As this loads up, we can see for a specific group. In this case, we have group 1 is noted as, it looks like our departments, product management, sales, for some of our members in India, engineering, right? We can see the different teams and their participation rates overall. If we want to dive a little bit deeper, we can take a look at activity tracker. So again, right, engagement is one thing, activity is another. I can see as we rolled out these Q streams, we had a lot of different question attempts towards the beginning, and that's very, very commonplace, right? We have a lot of participants who are starting to answer their first few questions. Sometimes there's a dip in the middle, right, where activity has fallen off, and that's where program managers such as yourselves can come back in and say, hey, we see that activity has dropped tremendously, but there's not a lot of completions yet. It means people are not answering their questions when they need to be, and you're able to again either get that list or just reach out to the organization as a whole with the communication. But this looks like a pretty typical trend, right? As people are answering their questions and they're completing the Q stream, the Q streams themselves will close, and then you're going to have less and less attempts as people are mastering more questions. I can see the latest activity, which happens to be today, as I had answered questions earlier, and I can see for my Q streams, which ones have high participation rates, which ones have pretty standard ones, and which ones have pretty low ones. And again, this one that we're actively answering right now has some lower participation rate, with the idea that people and individuals can be tagged. We can come in here and see, oh, well, this is overall the QStream proficiency on an initial and current basis, but we can also see it by department. We can also drill down a little bit further. I think we have it by specific teams. You can do it by countries, or you could do it by individual participants themselves. So we have all of that data available for program managers overall. And it's the same that can be done here in this view as well, by country, by team, as well. The last thing, and this is probably the most important aspect about QStream that a lot of program managers as well as senior executives really like, is that we have a topic heat map and as well as a question heat map. So with questions, you can actually tag them based on topics, right? So for me, if I had a lot of history questions, I can tag them with the overall topic of history or classics or archaeological studies, whatever it may be, and I can see that for the sales team in particular, maybe for the questions all rolling up about types of bias or diversity and inclusion, GDPR requirements. I can see here sales as well as individual members who aren't tagged. They're struggling with this topic in particular, right? We have less than 40% proficiency, right? So people are only 36% of people are getting these questions right within this team, as opposed to product management or engineering who are getting 80% or 78%. But the great thing is, as the Q stream goes on and as people are developing proficiencies, we can see that sales has made a massive turnaround, right? Going from 33 or 36 to 100% proficiency. So things to definitely highlight it when you're presenting this data to senior management and executives. This is again over a spaced period of time. A Q stream itself, depending on how many questions in there, because of that 2-week turnaround for some of the questions, could last anywhere from 1 month to to 2 months, right? So the great thing is that post trainings, we've seen a lot of data that correlates the fact that after 2 weeks time, if I'm just crammed with a lot of information, there's a lot of information that I've forgotten, right? But with the spaced education methodology, I can show that even after 2 months, I'm still capable of answering these questions correctly and with proficiency. That's fantastic, right? But the other side of it is I'm able to see, oh, well, after that spaced methodology, I see that maybe these 2 topics or these 3 topics still have 3/4 of the people answering it correctly, which is maybe not 80%. Maybe you have an 80% proficiency line that you want to try to meet. Then that these are the types of questions that you need to focus on, maybe for a more pointed to QStream, one that only has questions that are about this particular topic, or you want to create better questions. Maybe you take a look at the questions and you see, oh, okay, well, this question was written really poorly, or there's some confusing answer choices in here, or ones that people could decide between and decide that this, that it was really close and it was just a little bit confusing. Maybe next time we roll out a QStream, we'll do better with those questions in particular. So there's a lot of good data in here that you can collect, and you can view that again by department or by country or by whatever your grouping or topics may be. But this really allows you to focus a lot of your time and energy on pointed information in terms of, if it's engineering specifically for content about, informed consent, we can just roll out a QStream just for this group, just on this topic. That way we don't have to roll something out for everybody who has shown, proficiency in this topic in particular. And again, you can do the same thing in depth with questions as well, not just by topics, right? If it's a specific question that you're curious about, you can do the same thing. So we have that, as the demo ones, we have it set with department and by country, but we can set it to be whatever grouping that you want within your QStream. Last couple of things here, again, cognizant of time, is content analysis, right? Of my questions, how many attempts were done with this question in mind? What QStreams was this question put into? We can see that the what is bias question was in 2 different QStreams. Here are the different attempts, and the proficiencies, correct, partially correct, or incorrect for each one. And you can get a leaderboard view as well of all the participants and their points, attempts, team, country, all of that information. And lastly, we don't hold all of this information, so that way you can't get at it. We have an engagement report that you can export, and you get all of this information as well, and you can put that into whatever BI tool that you're using internally, whether it's Tableau or any Microsoft Power BI, whatever homegrown system that you may have. You can get all of this information within a CSV and pop that into your own BI tool and be able to make your own analyses and visualizations as well. But we have all of this available within our product for you. And that's it for the presentation. Again, I know I'm kind of running up close to the end of time, but I know members of my team have been answering questions if there are any.
Hi, Ben. Thanks for that. That was really insightful into how QStream works. Yeah, we do have a few questions that have come in, and I'm not too sure if they have been answered or not, but we'll run with anyway. Yeah. The first question was, do you change the replies when you have 3 questions?
Do I change the replies if I have 3 questions? I'm sorry if I'm not understanding what that question means, but basically, we would build a QStream, for example, with 10 to 15 questions in them. And every other day you're presented with 2 questions. So let's say today's the start of my QStream. I answer both of my questions. Again, whether I got it right or wrong, I'll see it in 1 week or 2 weeks time. But since today's Tuesday, on Thursday, I'll actually receive question 3 and 4 from that list. And then again, based on how I answer that gets put into its queue for its appropriate algorithm. So if I don't have a repeat question that's being presented to me, I will continue to get the new questions until I've presented an answer for the 10 or 15 questions that we've created.
Okay, makes sense. The next question was, how are the analytics provided by QStream different from the ones received in a learning management system?
Yeah, so ours is a learning management system. Oftentimes they may have very pointed training with just high-level information about that particular training session. Q streams themselves are really meant to be part of an overall training program, an overall curriculum itself. So we have services team members who will be assigned to your account, and they will be responsible for helping you create, build, and enrolling your participants into these specific Q streams, but helping you to design an overall year-long program, right? So not only are you getting just the the information about each specific Q stream, you're getting information about all of the Q streams throughout the year, throughout your entire life cycle with us. And if they're all rolled up and cataloged into the appropriate programs and topics, you get a lot more insightful information than if you just ran one or two at a time that were very marketed.
Perfect. Yeah, makes sense again. So the last question we have time for is content customizable for sales uses, cases / training?
Yes. So content is entirely, up to your organization and your team. As you can see, if I go back to our dashboard real quick, we have a ton of different content, right? So again, there's healthcare content. I showed that I could create content on history. Bryony, who's a member of our product team, created a lot of different content in terms of, GDPR, some COVID Q streams that we have in place. Gary Greenberger, who is our VP of sales, it looks like he's creating a Q stream on multi-year software agreements for his sales team, right? So it's very pointed. You can actually create content very specifically for an organization. So yes, most of our content that I would say that I've seen points a lot to clinical practices, compliance, or even sales and sales methodologies.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Ben. And yeah, that does conclude the session. So Ben, again, thank you so much for taking the time to give us a quick demo of how QStream works. And to everyone that tuned in, thank you so much for your questions and taking part. And we'll see you all very soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.